What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a new YouTube video. Hopefully you guys are all doing well, staying safe. I know considering these crazy circumstances, we're all kind of unsure about what to do right now. I think for myself, it's really weird, honestly, making videos right now just because it doesn't seem like it's the most important thing in the world. For a fact, I know it definitely isn't, but I do want to be able to provide you guys with some sort of entertainment. And honestly, this just gives myself something to do throughout the day, is make some cool videos for you guys, or at least attempt, since I'm doing this all myself. But I do want to try and just kind of talk about some things that have always been on my mind and videos I've always wanted to make. These are going to be much more simple videos than you guys are normally used to, so sorry if the production quality isn't what it usually is. I am doing this all by myself. So first things first, I do want to talk about my favorite camera. This is the Mamiya 7 II. It is by far my favorite camera that I've ever used, and I hope that I will never have to actually sell this thing. It is just, I love it so much. So I want to make a whole video about it, show you guys some sample photos, which definitely my favorite photos I've ever taken were pretty much all taken on this camera. Show you guys some of those, as well as just walk you through the basics of this camera, why I love it so much, and yeah, just give you some cool thoughts and something to watch today. So let's get into it. So the Mamiya 7 II is a 6x7 style rangefinder camera. I absolutely love this thing. I love how lightweight and portable it is. It's just so nice and tiny compared to a lot of the other 6x7 cameras out there. For me, the compact style really helps, especially when you want to travel. So I bring this thing almost everywhere I go on every trip. And it's really not that big of a pain in the ass to bring versus something like a Pentax 6.7 or a Mamiya RZ 6.7. Those are just massive cameras, and they do obviously shoot incredible images, but I just love how small and compact this camera is. And I think if you guys asked anybody else out there who has one of these cameras as well, that's gonna be one of their favorite things. This camera also has a leaf shutter, meaning the shutter is actually in the lens. So if you take the lens off of the camera, you can actually see how big it is. It's a lot bigger than you think it is. It has a lot, past what you can actually see right here. And it allows for really slow shutter speeds to actually still be in focus. So I've shot even 15th of a second, somewhere around there, 30th of a second, and I'm still able to get really clear images a lot of the time. This allows for just a really compact setup. You don't necessarily need a tripod if you're shooting a slower shutter speed. You don't have that big fat mirror going up and down. It's a nice small rangefinder that shoots an amazing 6x7 negative that we all know and love. And yeah, it's just an incredible camera to use. The only lens that I have with this camera is actually the 65mm f4 lens. This has been my favorite lens. Obviously, this is my only lens as well, so I don't have a lot to compare it to. I do eventually want to be able to get the 80mm lens and possibly the 43mm as well. Both of those are definitely interesting focal lengths I would like to try. The 65mm though is pretty close to a 35mm focal length, so I do really enjoy that. But it's fun to mix it up sometimes and try out different focal lengths. But for the last couple of years, I've been sticking just to this 65mm lens. Now, if you guys have ever shot Mamiya at all, Mamiya glass is just kind of widely known as some of the best, especially the glass for the Mamiya 7. This is known as one of the sharpest lens systems that you can actually buy. And I honestly can say the exact same. I am so impressed always with how sharp these images are, even at f4 when you're shooting portraits of somebody or you want some shallow depth of field. It just looks amazing. It's just like so sharp, so clean. I love how it just renders a scene. It's beautiful, and I'm always so happy with how the images turn out. Especially with this rangefinder system, it's really easy to focus. The viewfinder is nice and bright. That is something that I also really enjoy, is how bright and clear and easy it is to look through and focus on your subject, as well as just a great camera to bring around wherever you go. I don't shoot a ton of portraits on this camera, although a lot of people do, and it does look amazing. I think where this camera excels is just kind of documenting an entire scene, and that's definitely what I tend to use it for. Obviously, when you stop down to f4, it does look amazing, and I would highly recommend that you try that as well. But I'd say for the most part, for me, I shoot just kind of a wide variety of landscapes and travel-oriented photos with this camera, and I'm always so happy with how it turns out. Especially with that 6x7 negative, you just really get a lot of ability to crop if you want, and just mess around. It's such a big, huge negative with a lot of information, and it allows you to mess around and manipulate the scan however you'd like. So one of the most annoying things I would say about this camera is probably my only gripe is how often the rangefinder needs to be calibrated. It just happens a lot. It bounces around in my bag, or if it's over my shoulder like this, it's really easy for it to get knocked off, and therefore when you're focusing at infinity, you look through the rangefinder and something's a little bit off. This does happen a lot, and I've had this calibrated probably 4 or 5 times, I would say, over the years. Maybe it's just because I'm a little bit more rough with it, but honestly, I really try hard to keep it as still and padded in a bag as possible. So I can remember clearly the first trip that I took this camera on was actually to Mexico City with my girlfriend Allegra. We were there actually shooting a project for her for Airbnb, I want to say, and I actually just got this camera the day before we left, so I was so excited to try it out. And when we got there, I was shooting around, really enjoying my experience with this camera, and I got all the scans back and they were almost all out of focus. This was actually my first time shooting with a rangefinder, so I would highly recommend that you guys try and make sure that the rangefinder is perfectly calibrated. This does happen quite a bit with these cameras where the rangefinder system isn't perfectly calibrated, so when you try to focus and it looks like it's in focus through the rangefinder, it's actually not. You'll want to move your focus ring to infinity and then you can see if that's actually lining up, you know, with a subject that's far away. If it's not, you might want to go get it checked out and make sure it's calibrated properly. I can remember vividly the trip where I absolutely fell in love with this camera though. It definitely was not coming back from Mexico City because I was pretty annoyed that all my photos were out of focus. But the first trip that I took this camera on was actually a road trip from LA up to Washington to go visit my family. We drove up and did an entire road trip, and actually my Canon 1DX Mark II at the time, the shutter decided to just shit out on me halfway through the trip. So I didn't really have a choice but to just use this camera the entire trip. All throughout the way, I shot tons and tons and tons of Portra 400, Portra 800 on this camera. And I got all the scans back and I was honestly just amazed. Those were some of my favorite photos that I've ever taken to date, was on that specific road trip. And then after that, I just knew that I wanted to incorporate this camera into my everyday workflow as well as on all of my trips that I take. I've taken this camera all around the world now, to all over Europe, to Australia, to New Zealand, all around Tokyo and Japan. And I can safely say that this is the best 6x7 travel camera that I've ever used. I just love how it works. I love the ergonomics. The images that I get out of this camera are always super impressive, and I can't say enough good things about this. So another thing that I really think sets this camera apart from its other 6x7 competitors is the built-in light meter. It's so helpful to have the light meter in this camera. It's extremely accurate. I've actually tested it against my handheld light meter and it is the exact same every single time. So I'm super impressed. I never have a doubt that my image isn't properly exposed, which for me, when I'm traveling with this setup, it helps a lot just knowing that I have that peace of mind. The light meter works perfectly. I haven't had to change the battery out more than twice, I would say, over the last couple years. And it allows me to have the peace of mind and confidence to just get out there and make pictures. Again, for traveling, I would say that this is a home run in terms of portability and ease of use. The 6x7 negative that you can get out of this camera paired with the light meter, the leaf shutter as well, so you can shoot slower shutter speeds. I just think it's an amazing camera for traveling, and especially if you do travel a lot and you're looking for a camera that does shoot that 6x7 negative, I would highly recommend the Mamiya 7 or the Mamiya 7 II. Mamiya also does make a Mamiya 6, which shoots a 6x6 negative, but in my opinion, you might as well go for the 6x7 if you can. I do realize that these are insanely expensive now. When I bought this camera, it was about $2,500, which again is extremely expensive, but they've gone up even more so now. I've seen them on eBay for $3,000, even $4,000, which is pretty crazy, but I just love this camera so much. I'm really glad that I decided to bite the bullet and purchase it. In my opinion, I think this will probably be the only medium format 120 film camera that I decide to purchase and keep over the years. I love it so much. I think it fits what I do photographically, as well as just the ability to travel with it and not have it take up the entire backpack that I'm carrying. So that kind of concludes today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I know this was kind of a short little video, but I just wanted to get something out there and have something for you guys to watch. I absolutely love this camera. I'm going to be posting some photos over on my Instagram over the next week, taken with this thing. So if you guys want to go check that out, my Instagram is @SamuelElkins. But yeah, that about concludes today's video. Enjoy the photos at the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you in the next one. Wash your hands.